I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
If you get 2 or 3 Black women in a room, they will instantly bond over our hair. All of us of a certain age have stories about the kitchen in the hot comb and perms and afros. We all have that struggle. And for some of us who are tender-headed, like I am, and unfortunately also my daughter, it's also been a painful struggle. Well, recently I found a hairdresser here in Boston who doesn't take that path. I go there for my hair, for my twist and my coloring. And my daughter goes for all kinds of things, including the perm, not the perm, but the straightening, the press and curl. And we both love it because it's gentle. So we wanted to talk to Liz Siggers, who is owner of Liz's Hair Care here in Boston in the Mission Hill community, and talk to her. And Barbara, you also have a hairdresser who you'll introduce and talk about gentle, gentle hair care for Black women. Liz, how do you do it?
Yeah.
What's your secret?
Hi, thank you for having me. Well, I just feel as though it doesn't have to be a struggle. It starts off in the bowl. It starts off using the correct products. It starts off clearing the hair, detangling, taking the time to clear the hair before you even wet it down. Then when we wet it down, you have to make sure it's extremely wet before you add a cleanser. Once you add the cleanser, you lather and you're using your fingers as a comb at the same time, gently separating the hair as you're cleansing the hair. You don't want to just tangle it all up together. The old school way of just getting in there and scrubbing, it's tangling our natural hair that way. So you really want to use your fingers to detangle at the same time. And another big part is conditioning the hair. A lot of people don't really realize that they're not adding the shampoo in properly and the conditioner and rinsing it properly. You're never supposed to rinse it all the way out so it's squeaky clean. When it's squeaky clean, you rinsed everything, all those oils out of the hair that you needed to detangle. We have to leave a little bit in. So that's a big part of detangling and making it an easier process for the client in general. We want it to be painless.
Yes. And it is no matter what we've done or what we've had done, you don't see the trauma that comes with a lot of Black hair care, unfortunately. Barbara, why don't you weigh in?
Hi, I know you can't see me, but I'm actually at my hairdresser, and we don't have Wi-Fi. I'm sitting here with my laptop. So now we're on my phone, but I would like to introduce her. Her name is Rasa. She has her own hair care place. I found her accidentally by looking for a place because the hairdresser I had, she was great, but she used to hurt. And that's why I started growing my own dreads, because I was done with the pain. But I'm going to let her. She's actually doing someone's hair right now, but I'm going to let her talk about her place. So go ahead and speak into the mic. Just talk.
Hey, my name is Raisa. I have African braiding shop. We do braid, dread extension, first lock, any kind of hair. We make African women pretty. Then we take care for the hair, the shampoo, and the most important thing is our hair. Our hair still some product we use, because most people have to know when you start braiding hair, you cannot use any kind of product. That's how some people have some issue with the hair, like the edges will fall down. you need to use just the grease, like all the generation used to use just the grease, and it's so cheaper. It's $2.99 everywhere. Then you have to put the grease first, and that grease help the customer hair and help our brother eyes, because when you doesn't, you're gonna still have eyes problems, vision problem, because the dark or any color hair people, customer bring it. Then if you use that grease, it cover your
Okay.
eyes and it protect the customer hair as well.
Okay, let's
And
go
I
back.
liked her because she was
Go ahead, Barbara.
gentle, like I said. And I went in and she asked me, into your hair and it will lock back.
Well, I have a question
April's
for both of you all. I have a question for both of you all. Basically, because I know that
Yes.
braids are very popular, and I remember a few years back when I guess the beauty industry was trying to change the standards for a lot of people who were doing braids that may not have gone to a beauty school or anything like that, but they just came with the skill and they set up shop and did it. And one of the things that beauty schools do, you have to take a lot of chemistry and know a lot of different hair textures and that kind of thing, and products and how they affect hair, where a lot of the braiders were kind of under pressure to either shut down or get a license. And some of them feel like, well, look, we've been doing this forever. This is what we did at home, especially the ones who came from Africa. I know I had a couple of Nigerian friends that were going through that because this was their skill. This is what their talent was. They didn't go through a beauty school with all the other courses and chemicalizing and everything. So, that was a bit of I guess, a challenge for them being able to keep their shop going.
What
How do you feel
the
about that?
question is,
Liz, I know you probably do a variety of things, but how do you feel about the standards that the industry is?
Well, from state to state, it's different.
Yeah.
So every state, it's different. Massachusetts, you do have to have your license, your cosmetology license to even braid. And I think the reason why is because there's a lot to just doing hair. It's not doing hair, you're taking care of the scalp as well. So if you have people come in and they have some sort of fungus on their scalp, we need to know how to take care of that. So I think that's a big part of it. There's other parts to training to be a cosmetologist other than just braiding. Yes, we've been braiding for years. I agree with you. But I think that everyone should still go to school for that craft to hone in, because there's a lot more to learn about actually doing hair in general. Even though we've been doing our own natural black hair for years, there's a lot more to learn. And we do everything at the salon. I have 8 employees. I've been on my own for 20 years, and there's a lot of natural hair right now. A lot of people come even to just get it washed, conditioned, and prep for their braid, and a lot of times we do it all right there and then. A lot of people I know will try to wash their own hair at home, but it just doesn't work out the same. There are ways that we have to treat and take care of the scalp in order for it to have a good outcome and for you to wear those braids the next 6, 8, or 12 weeks. Another thing that I believe is I believe that there's no such thing as a protective style. My opinion, a protective style is switching it up. We want to call it a protective style. We want to braid the hair all the time. But if you're braiding the same way all the time, what's going to happen? If the braider is braiding too tight, but if you're braiding in the same direction, you're going to have that traction alopecia, which isn't good. So I'm not saying not to. We totally do tons of braids, but you have to switch up the style, and that will eventually help your scalp so you don't have any hair thinning.
So what you mentioned, what's it called? Alopecia? Is that when you start getting bald? Because
traction alopecia is the way that you style the hair. And then there are different types of alopecia. There is another type of alopecia where if you have a lot of stress in your life, what happens is your hair balds into a circle. So in little circles, like it's a perfect circle on different parts of your scalp, but it will grow back. It's just traumatic to see. You know, all of a sudden you'll part your hair and you'll see a little section that's gone. You're like, how did that happen? You go to the dermatologist and they'll tell you it's alopecia. But the one that I'm talking about is traction. So if we're pulling and braiding our hair in the same direction all the time, you're not going to have any edges. That's what I'm talking about. But I know as Black women, we need to realize that we don't always need to pull the hair in the same direction. Just let that hair fall sometime. You know, whether we're twisting, if you want to twist it into a certain style, just switch it up. You know, what variety's the spice of life, you know?
So do they teach that kind of thing in cosmetology school? Like you should change your style, change?
No. The schools lack a lot, but I go into the schools here in Boston. Twice a year they have like job fairs, and I can even go in and teach a class for them. And I always think the basics is what's really needed, and just what you're talking about here today, where it doesn't have to be painful. So basic starts at the sink. So definitely I'm there. I'm showing them how to drape the client, how to clear their hair before we even wash them down, how to apply products for a pre-treatment on the scalp for that dry, flaky, itchy hair. You know, if they haven't washed their hair in a very long time, you got to treat that scalp before we treat the hair. And at the same time, how to rinse, how to condition and comb out, you know, and that's what makes the process easier and the client's happy and willing to come back. You know, they don't want their hair pulled on.
Great.
I have a question, and it's funny because you know Sarah comes to your shop also, Liz, and the last time one time she went someplace and was an African braiding place, and she was triggered because there were two little girls who were getting their hair braided, and the woman was so terrible. They were just pulling on it, you know, with the hair dryer, you know, to blow dry it first, and the little girls were screaming. And Sarah was about ready. Now, Sarah's a grown woman, but she was about ready to cry herself because she said this was just ridiculous. The women were laughing while these kids were screaming, which is what, you know, a lot of us have been traumatized about our hair for from the time that we can remember. So what is the best time? Obviously there's painful ways, but what's a good age to start, you know, taking your daughter or your son to the hairdressers so that they can learn how to enjoy this experience and that their hair is beautiful the way it grows?
We get them at all ages, and I think the younger the better. Like if they start at the age of 3, it could be basic, real basic. Watch mom get it done with mom the same day. Give them a basic wash at the sink, and maybe a light blow dry or not. Put them underneath the dryer with heat protectant to loosen up the curl a little bit, and blow it out and then braid it. But simple styles, I would say ponytail, pigtail, you know, if they're little twists or things like that. I think it's better that you start early. If you start later in life, it's going to be hard. Like most of us Black moms, we're going to do it started at home. And then when you take them to the salon, they want to be a big girl like their parent. So they're willing to sit. And I would never laugh out loud. That's just going to make it more traumatic. If the baby's crying or the little girl's crying continuously, you got to stop, let her take a break, breathe, give her some water. That's what we do. You know, sometimes they're just overwhelmed with the experience and it might not even be hurting. So you have to talk them through it. You know, I have a lot of employees. There's 8 of us. So there's always someone who's, you know, right there in the little girl's face talking her through it. You know, doesn't that feel good? You know, it's the power of the suggestion. And, you know, you just have to take your time and go through it. Just be gentle, be nice.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't know if that's something they teach in cosmetology school, but I guess that's a technique you learn. Well, I want to greet Sheila Stamps. Thanks for joining us. And feel free, Sheila, if you've got some hair care questions, we've got a wonderful hairdresser that can maybe give you some tips to a painless path of Black hair care. I know that there was a time when I did press my hair, and you know, that's a whole cultural thing going through that. But I know there was a period when, you know, with the afro and everything, a lot of people, they just didn't get their hair done because you didn't have to really do anything. Now, today with locks, it's another kind of thing where I don't know if it's a cultural statement or whatever, but people decide they just want natural hair. Does that affect the industry, those periods when we decide, okay, we don't want chemicals, we want something natural? Does that kind of cause business to slow up if people decide to do something that doesn't require?
Not at all. We just went through COVID, right? And we're kind of still in it, but we went through COVID. A lot of people went natural. When they came back, they needed to learn how to take care of their natural hair. So that's what we're there for. And then you have a lot of people who are natural who, if they don't have locks and they're natural, they want their hair braided and then they want a crochet style. Maybe they want a faux lock, you know, so they want that look, but they don't want it to be permanent, which is fine. You know, there's many ways that you could take care of it.
So how is a faux lock? How does that work?
So they braid the hair and then they sew in the lock.
Oh, really?
They sew it in. Yeah, and it's wonderful. It's beautiful. Okay. And it looks just like locks, but it's not permanent. And then I just learned a new one. Just the other day, one of my employees, she did a instant lock. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Have you?
No. What's that?
An instant lock. That was interesting. It took forever. It took probably almost as long as a sister lock. So basically what they do is on the natural hair, they use a needle to rough up the whole hair strand and then interlock it at the root to lock it in. So it is a dreadlock.
Oh.
So you have natural hair. She did it on a gentleman who had, you know, his sides and his back was shaved, tapered down nicely. And he probably had about 7 inches of hair. So it was a good amount of hair. And that's why it took so long, because it's kind of like a back combing technique to rough it up with a needle. And then you interlock it with the needle down under at the root. So it looks like a whole lock. When she was done, it was locks immediately. They didn't have to wait for it to lock. It immediately locked. It was amazing. He was quite satisfied.
Now, does that just grow into locks, or
it will from there? Yes, from there it will. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
So I guess there are a lot of different ways that, I mean, are the cosmetology schools teaching conditioning now, or is that they're not doing it?
We're in Boston. There aren't many. You know, there's a few schools, but the majority of them are Caucasian. They have a few Black teachers, but they still don't teach enough. They don't teach enough about our hair. You learn when you get out. Each salon that you go into, you'll learn something new, and that's how you get your experience. You know, you always have to have your eyes and ears open and look for it. And there are classes, there are shows all over the United States that you can go to that will offer things like that. Like Atlanta's a big one. Birmingham, you go to Birmingham for the premiere show there. That's wonderful as well. And they'll have classes showing things like that. But in school, you don't. You learn the basics. And it's never has to do with Black hair at all. I hate to say that, but it's true. Yep. Frustrating, but true. So they love when I go into the school and I can teach a class. You know, they have a lot of questions, but they really still don't learn until they get out into the industry and you're in a different salon, so you can learn different about product knowledge, techniques, and things like that. And you'll learn something different at every salon. And then you pick and choose what works for you and where you're at.
And I have to tell you, because I have to tell a story on Liz, but Liz tends to have young apprentices in her shop. So she's always teaching as these young women are learning, and they're learning how to do hair, and they're learning the right way and how to be gentle. And it's a wonderful vibe. Anybody in the Boston area who's looking for a good salon, this is the place to go. I love the vibe there. I told her, I said, I would come here every week if I could. I grew up so tender-headed that, you know, I wanted nothing. That's part of the reason I also got dreadlocks, because I had a lot. Now, Liz, tell us, at what age, because I remember when Sarah was younger and she wanted to get the press and curl. And of course because I'm natural, I had a big thing about that. But at what age do you think if someone wants to get a perm, and are they important, and how are they for our hair? Are they damaging? Are they, you know, what's the deal with perms?
Perms are only damaging if you're not doing the self-care at home. When we relax the hair, I always recommend a roller set. It's less damage, it's less heat. You're not stretching that hair strand. Hair is weakest when it's wet. So you're not, after relaxing it and breaking down that hair strand, you're not pulling on it with heat in a brush. You're roller setting it, and then you're blowing out the roller mark. So you're roller setting it and you just wrap it to keep it smooth. I think it has to be the age where they're willing to take care of their own hair. Or if the mother's diligent and the mother says, you know what, okay, you can get this because it's going to be easier for you and I to take care of, but you're not going to blow dry and flat iron it because you're only causing damage. You're stretching the hair beyond what it's supposed to stretch, and it will snap like a dried out rubber band. Our hair strand is supposed to stretch like a rubber band. And if it doesn't, that's damage. And how we fix that is protein and moisture. But a relaxer isn't for everyone, you know, and I don't even recommend pressing curls on children regularly. That's like a no-no. I always talk to the parents and say, special occasion, fine, but don't do it on a regular basis, you know. But when we do silk presses, we always use 3 heat protectants as we're blow drying, as they go underneath the dryer, and then when we use the flat iron as well. So we are truly taking care of the hair. My mom, three girls, she didn't know how to do hair. She lost her mother when she was younger, so she didn't know how to do hair. Her hair would never grow. She was quite frustrated. I think that's why it got me in this business. So now she has locks, and her hair does tremendous now. Her hair's way down her back. Her hair has never grown all her life, and she has 3 daughters, 3 different textures of hair. And we grew up in the 70s, so she got our hair off. That's all she could do. Yeah, we cut it off.
Never cut the hair.
Yeah.
We got a question here. We got a question here from Sheila. She said she's 64 with thin hair. How can I get my hair thicker and fuller? Also, I only get my hair braided 3 times a year. And then she also says I'm tender-headed as well. I understand that. So how can she go about?
I would first go to a dermatologist and see if anything's affecting her internally. You know, we can do things topically all we want, but internally counts as well. Biotin is always #1 on my list for clients who have thin hair. Biotin helps make the hair grow. And when you go to the dermatologist, they'll give you other products and sometimes even shots that will help stimulate hair growth. Other than that, we only have products in hair salons to make the hair feel fuller. So there are products that will make it feel fuller, but it's not going to make it actually grow. Other ways of making your hair grow is massaging the hair, peppermint oils, things like that, things that are tingly that are going to stimulate. Working out, people don't like to hear that, but that's keeping the blood flow. You want blood flow. When I'm talking about massaging, that's blood flow. So when you're working out, walking, running, whatever, that's blood flow from your toes to your head. You cause that little stimulation, and that's how your hair grows. Thickness, a product is going to do that, but I would definitely see a dermatologist so you can figure out if anything's going on first.
Could standing on your head, you know, like it's like yoga or something, standing on your head, because that stimulates them.
Yeah, you know, when you get that little chill and it's like a little tingle, that's stimulating hair growth. When you feel that little, But even if you don't feel that, massaging, and you know, back in the day, I know old school, we grew up like you're supposed to brush your hair several times a night. You know, if you brush it, that's stimulation. I know a lot of people are afraid to brush. You have to brush. You have to clear the hair. Daily, we're losing, 80 to 100 strands a day. You're supposed to. Skin sheds too. If we seen what our skin shed every day, we'd be shocked. So your hair and skin has to shed in order to let the new come in.
So now, with locks, and Sheila says, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks for watching, Sheila. Now with locks, it doesn't sound good, but I'm told that what locks are is dead hair and dead skin wrapped up. Is it, you know, kind of squished together. That's really what that is. You know, it just grows and grows and grows because you don't comb it. You're not combing out the dead hair. You're not getting rid of the dead skin.
Well, it's not as though the hair is really dead because, you know, if they dug up a grave, what's left on those? The bones are all there. What else is left there? Teeth and hair. It's made up of the same things. Hair is actually left on their skull. So the hair's still there, but it's not growing anymore. But it's there. It's not going to die and just fall off, but it is still there. I wouldn't call it dead.
Okay.
Because you're still growing at your root in order to have your locks, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when people do things like sewing them back in, and then does the thread just sort of tangle in and become part of your hair, you know?
The instant lock we were talking about, or just the locks in general?
That and locks in general, yeah. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's kind of like your like I said, back combing, or like you said, it's the hair's tangled up to knot. We want it to knot up, so it will stay in that form, that shape. Mm-hmm.
Is there
The hair that we don't clear out every day? Everyone
Yes.
else, we're clearing hair. Yes.
So now I'm seeing a lot of very, very young people with extensions, you know, braids, and is there an age where that is maybe too young, or, you know, best not to start until after? Because I've seen like 3-year-olds and they get these long extensions. I'm thinking, oh, that's a bit much, you know, a lot of pressure on a young scalp.
Exactly. I cringe when I see that, especially if there's beads on top of it.
Yeah.
All that weight for that scalp is no good at all, because that's weakening it, and you can cause real trauma where the hair won't grow back at all. That's what we see, you know, Hollywood. That's what we see all the time. They don't have edges. You look at Brandy, you look at Cynthia Bailey, you know, they don't have edges because they're doing too much to it around the edges. You know, you just have to loosen up whatever you do. If it's locks or twist or braids, you can't do it tight and not really in the same direction. With locks, the weight of them sometimes can be too heavy. So I always recommend giving it a hair trim, you know, if the hair is real thick. If you have long hair and it's not as thick, it depends on how wide you make your lock as well. That's the other thing, you know, for the square inch of the person's head. So you have to get someone who knows what they're doing, who starts your locks in the first place, to make sure they're not too wide. So it's not going to be too heavy on that little perimeter of your scalp.
Mm-hmm. Is there a product, or are there products that help those with the edges, you know, who need to grow their edges out?
Well, if you already did severe damage, sometimes it won't come back at all. If you look at a little boy who gets his hair tapered down real low, and you notice he has a little nick there, and in that nick it's smooth, it's usually smooth. The reason why is they probably hit their head on a coffee table or something like that, and they traumatize that scalp so much that it doesn't grow back anymore in that area. So essentially you're doing the same thing if you're braiding too hard in the frontal area like that. You're pulling too hard that there's going to be no growth there anymore.
Well,
so you can't bring it back if it is smooth. It's usually smooth. It kind of looks like waxy, shiny. You'll know the difference when you see that. But if you see little pore holes, like you look up in the mirror and you see the little pore holes like you do on your arm. I mean, everyone doesn't have hair on their arm, but you'll see little holes. When you see those little holes, that means that your hair will grow. It will grow back. But if it looks smooth and shiny, it's not going to grow back. But you can go to a dermatologist, like I said, and they can give you different shots and things like that will help promote some growth. They have a lot of new stuff these days.
Well, one last question before you go. How soon is too soon for a weave?
For weave?
Yeah.
For a little girl?
Glued in, sewed in, however they do it. Yeah, for a little girl.
Oh, wow. Same thing. I don't think a child should get a weave. Personally, I don't think they should get a weave. So, I mean, I think that they should probably be 18 years old, you know? Honestly, what do they need a weave for? I think that's too soon, especially if it's glued in. You don't want glue. Like a lot of people, don't do things like that just to be lazy. If you're doing it for a style, that's a child. So if you're not willing to do that child's hair regularly, that's not any good, because just because you're weaving it, you're keeping it closed up. The scalp isn't able to breathe. You're ruining her scalp. The scalp is the grass. I always like to use analogies. The scalp is the soil. You got to have good soil to have good grass. So the same thing with our hair. If you want her hair to grow in later on in life, don't do that to your child.
Well, we appreciate you, and thank you so much. And thank you all for watching. Make sure you tune in every Sunday, 5 p.m. and follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 3 Black Moms. I'm
Thank you.
And we're 2 of the 3 Black Moms.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Yeah, so make sure you take care of that hair.
That's right.
We will see you next time on 3 Black Moms.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black moms.